Hello, my name is
Hello.
Ankit Rajab, along with my co-host Megha Upadhyay. Welcome all the viewers to this live session on untapped opportunities of startup ecosystem in a small town, organized by Jabalpur Smart City and Jabalpur Incubation Center. Today with us as resource person, we have Mr. Sashikanth, who is startup advisor and facilitator. Sir has more than 20 years of experience. Mr. Sashikanth completed his graduation as electrical engineer in 1991 from Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad. MBA from Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai. Sir has served as Vice President at HCL Infosystem, Senior Vice President at Inflow Technology Private Limited, and many more roles in corporate world. Right now, Sir is working as board member of I2Z Venture Consultancy. Sir, on behalf of Jabalpur Smart City and Jabalpur Incubation Center, we welcome you and now request you please kindly proceed.
Thank you, Ankit and Megha. So today we will look at the startup ecosystem where strategic planning or the planning is the most essential aspect of any startup, right? So we will look into it as to how there are three different types of planning and what are the ingredients of those three planning. And after that, in the last question answer session, we will discuss as to how we use this planning exercise to tap into the rural, urban, or semi-urban market, right? So Ankit, over to the first slide. So, in any startup ecosystem, there are three kinds of planning involved: strategic plan, tactical plan, and operation plan. Strategic plan is normally at a very high end level. So, typically, the CEOs of a company does that. The tactical plan is done by the CEO of the company, but in liaison with the department heads. And the operation plan is done by the department heads for the relevant person who is executing the different parts of the tactical plan, right? So, over to the next slide. So, what do you mean by strategic plan? So, strategic plan focuses on the entire organization. It actually tells you what is the goals, objectives, etc. of the company, and based on that, the startup will have a blueprint as to how to proceed forward in terms of executing their goals, executing their objectives, realizing their revenue target, realizing their profit targets, etc. Right. So now let's get into the different aspects of strategic plan, because strategic plan, out of the three planning, the strategic planning is the most important, and that's very crucial, and that takes the direction, gives the direction to the company. Right. So let's get into the strategic plan. So over to the next slide. So strategic plan has the following elements which needs to be included. Now, all of these elements are very critical. Some of the elements may not be there for certain B2B or B2C kind of a situation, but overall, this is the different elements of a strategic plan, whether we take look at a B2B startup or a B2C startup. So let's look at first the vision and mission. So a startup, let's say, is trying to evolve out of Jabalpur, or let's say out of Gwalior or out of Jaipur. What can be their vision? What can be their mission? Right. So if you look at vision of a company, is typically intrinsic to the company, which means it is meant for the employees. It is meant for the company. Whereas mission is extrinsic to the company, that is to the outside world. Primarily, mission is meant for the customers. So vision is what the company wants to aim at, the final or the primary aim the company is looking at in terms of next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. That is the vision of the company. Mission of the company is exactly what they would like to do for the customers. So if it is B2B, it is enterprise customers or mid-market customers or small and medium enterprises. If it is B2C, then it can be your consumers in class A, class B, or class C cities. So that's the difference between vision and mission. So vision and mission is very important from a strategic perspective, primarily because it gives direction to the company, and it also gives direction to a customer in what way a company can serve. So customer will get an idea as to in which direction the company is moving, so that they'll be catered to. And obviously vision gives a direction to the employees, and the employees get charged up, they're energized, they get a direction, they're able to identify with the vision to go ahead and execute their day-to-day activities. So typically all those companies who do not have a proper vision and mission will definitely find it difficult for their employees to have a mindset for their goals. That's why you see some of the companies, while the CEO might be talking about something, whereas people down the line might be talking about different things. That is primarily because the vision is not matching with the uh, employees' work, right? So this is a very, very important part of the strategic planning. Next comes to the goals. Now, what are the goals for a company? Typically, most companies will have goals like they would like to attain a revenue of 1 million in the first year, 2 million in second year, 5 million in third year, etc. Maybe 5, 10 million in the fifth year. So that can be a revenue goal. Then there can be your profitability goal, saying that you would like to make a gross margin of 10 percentage points or 20 percentage or 30 percentage gross profit. Or probably your net margin can also be a target. Let's say the company you are talking about. Third goal can be probably that we would like to gain 100 customers in the first year if we are talking about mid-market customer. If we are talking about enterprise customer, it can be 10 customers, large enterprise customers in the first year. And if you're talking about SOHO or small and medium enterprise cloud customers, it can anywhere range between 200 to 300 depending upon your ticket value, etc. So those are primarily the main goals of the company. And then comes the objectives. So when you subdivide the goals into different aspects of the company, there comes the objectives. For example, if we have to target a revenue of 1 million, how much of revenue will you do in from North India, how much will you do in from South, how much will you do it from East, how much will you do it from West. So that split can be the objectives. Or we can say what kind of branding strategy we want to do. So that can be one of the uh, major objective that a company would like to set. Then your number of people that you would like to recruit. For example, you would like to have 50 people on board in the first year, 100 people on board second year, 150 people on board in the third year. So these can be objectives for different years as the company or the startup progresses. Okay. Then coming to the next one. So when we are doing a strategic plan, we must be very clear what is the environment about. That is the scenario outside the company in terms of, it can be, when I say market scenario, it includes the potential customers, it includes the competitors, it includes the industry, it includes the governing bodies, it includes the regulatory bodies, it includes the central government, state government policies, etc. So that is what I summarize it as market scenario. So you need to understand this and put this in the strategic plan, because when you present your strategic plan to the board or to the investors or to your key partners, let's say if you're looking out for some co-founders and they need to understand your strategic planning, this market scenario will definitely tell them how much of groundwork you have done to exactly take your startup to the next stage. So market scenario is one of the very important part of the strategic plan. Then comes the organization scenario. Now, having finished the analysis of the situation outside the company, you need to analyze what is going to be the situation inside the company. Now, are we in a position to take a leadership position in the first year, second year, third year, or what are the strengths, weaknesses, of opportunities? So we might have to do a SWOT analysis with respect to our company at whatever stage we are in. For example, if we are two founders and let's say there are 10 employees, what is the SWOT analysis for this kind of a company we need to look at? And we need to look at it, what is the strengths and weaknesses of the members, so that we need to hire resources extra, or we need to focus on specific segments where our employees or our co-founders or our directors can focus. For example, it may not, if we do not have certain skill sets in, let's say, artificial intelligence, obviously we will not be able to develop a AI algorithm within our technology in a software, in an IT company, or let's say in a B2B or a B2C company. So depending on our company scenario, we will decide what all kinds of products or whatever kinds of markets we need to enter. So that's what I mean by organization scenario. Then coming to the uh, strategies. Now, having defined the overall objectives, we need to have a strategy for each of the department that will help us in achieving those goals and objectives. For example, let's say we need to have 10 enterprise customers in the first year. Now, to have that 10 enterprise customers, what should be our sales strategy? What should be our people strategy? How many people we will need here? How many sales people we will need? How many marketing people we will need? What is the kind of marketing strategy we need to have? What is the kind of territory strategy? For example, are we getting into rural markets, or are we getting into some semi-urban markets, or are we getting into urban markets? So those kind of individual department-wise strategy need to be fixed. So it can be your sales strategy, it can be your marketing strategy, it can be your people strategy, it can be your operation strategy, it can be your IT strategy, it can be your technology strategy, it can be your manufacturing strategy, and probably you also need to arrive at a pricing strategy, because if you're into, let's say, a B2B cloud kind of a technology or cloud kind of software, you need to price the product so as to get those customers in the first year. Are we going to give a free demo to clients, or are we going to give a freemium product to clients, or are we straight away going to charge the clients for whatever products they're going to take from us? So those are the kind of strategies. So while obviously today I'm going to discuss overall in terms of plans, so I'm not getting into details of these kind of strategies, but depending on startup, depending on your industry, depending on the market you're operating, depending on the competitors you have in the field, you can keep fine tuning your strategies. While strategic plan and strategies at an overall level will remain fixed for maybe 2 3 4 years, but then over a period of time you need to continuously fine tune, change minor alterations, uh, uh, as you start seeing results, as you start seeing results not coming in certain segments also, so you need to fine tune your strategies accordingly. But overall the strategy should be in line with the vision and mission. Now, when a company's strategy do not match their vision and mission, that is where you see the CEO and the employees actually driving the companies in different direction. And ultimately, when a company's strategies do not match with the vision and mission of the company, that is when they lead to failure. For example, during COVID time, I remember many companies, they really panicked, and they got out of their main core business and started focusing on, let's say, masks, ventilators, etc., which were not part of their core business. For example, if a company is into garments business, they can probably get into a designer masks, but they should not get into a ventilator business, because that's not their core business. Healthcare is not their core business. But during COVID, I found many companies, just to keep themselves afloat, just because they didn't know that how long their COVID will last, they got into all this unrelated. So that is where your strategy can go out of line with your vision and mission. Okay. And next, coming to the revenue and impact plan. Now, having decided the strategies, having decided your goals and objectives, you need to actually plan your revenue, how much revenue you will do in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. For example, let's say we have decided that we are going to target 1 million business from 10 enterprise customers in the first year. Or probably for a B2C company, we have decided that we are going to target 10,000 consumers in the first year. Now, this 10,000 consumers will come basis on what kind of leads. Do we need 1 lakh consumer leads to convert that into 10,000 customers in the first year? Or we need 100 enterprise customers to convert that into 10 enterprise customers? Now, what will be the pricing for those enterprise customers? Or if it's going to be B2C, what will be the cloud pricing for those consumers if they're going to buy product from us? And if it's going to be FMCG product, how much will we charge for the customers in the first 6 months? Next 6 months, how much? So that's how we plan the revenue as well as the revenue plan. Now, when I say impact, see, typically what happens when you are a social organization, or when you are a NGO, you may not have revenues, right? So you will then look at the impact plan. For example, how, if you are, let's say, driving a cause for aged people, or you're, say, driving a cause for hapless women, or you're driving a cause for uh, um, children, underprivileged children, or orphaned children, then how many children are you going to impact in the first year? How are you going to impact? Uh, what will be the spread over the next 1 2 3 years? So that will be part of the revenue and impact plan, because the revenue and impact plan gives you the idea in which your barometer is moving, which means at what speed your car is going to run, at different times, at what speed you need to run, and when you will be able to achieve your goal post. That is the idea of the revenue and market plan. Then coming to the resources. When I say resources here, I'm primarily looking at the manpower resources, like how many marketing people you have, how many sales people you have. If you're going to have a B2B, you might need to have a telemarketing or a telesales resource. And if you're into B2C, you primarily need a lot of people who will do outbound and inbound calls. And you might have to decide how many SEO resources you need, how many brand resources you need, whether you need one marketing manager, or you need to hire a chief marketing officer, or you need to have a chief operating officer for the company. So those are the kind of resources that you primarily look at it in this part of the strategic plan. Okay. Then coming to the product, solution, service, and technology. Obviously, any startup revolves around four things. Either they are into a product, can be FMCG product or a healthcare product. They are into a solution, they can do a IT solution, or they can be a healthcare uh, hospital information management solution, or they can do a service. For example, they might be offering consultancy services, or they might be offering some healthcare based services like testing of medical tests of consumers, right? Or it can be a technology platform. For example, you can say your somebody like Uber or somebody like Alibaba, while they are a e-commerce platform, right? But primarily, it is a technology platform which is catering to the e-commerce, right? So I wouldn't consider them as a product or a solution or service. I would more consider them as a technology platform. For example, your Uber, your Ola, your Amazon, your 1mg. These all these things I would like more. I would put them as a technology platform, right? Because the main element that drives these businesses is the technology. And today, if you see after the COVID, most companies have to be technology focused. So what kind of products you will do, what kind of solutions you will do, what kind of services you will do, what is the technology platform, that is part of this plan, right? So this is the core without which your company will not be able to get revenues, without which the company will not be able to see results in the market, without which you will not be able to cater to the customer. So it's one of the most important element of the strategic plan. Then comes the sales and marketing execution. So when I say sales and marketing execution, how many sales people you will deploy in your head office, or how many salespeople you will deploy across the regions, how many people will look after end customers, how many people will look after customer support, how many people will look after mid-market customers, how many people will look after enterprise customers, how many look after account management, how many will look after channel managers. So those are the kind of sales and sales planning execution that you are planning to do. And in terms of marketing, you will then decide what kind of leads you need to generate, what kind of Google ads you need to put, what kind of SEO activities you need to do day in and day out, what kind of social media campaigns you will do. So you will touch upon search engine optimization, you will touch upon social media optimization, you will touch upon search engine marketing, you will touch upon social media marketing. So these different activities of marketing is what you will capture here at a very high level. Then coming to your sales and tech support infra. So how much overall for the company, how much of sales and tech support will you be needing for the company, right? So that's important here, because without a sales infrastructure or a sales support infrastructure, you will not be able to fulfill the customers or realize the revenue. So sales support infrastructure is very important, and obviously technical support infrastructure. For example, let's say if you are running a Alibaba or a Amazon kind of a cloud, your product can get into a support issue where customer is not able to log in because of some browser issue he has got, or he has not updated his browser, or he has not updated his laptop operating system. So in those cases, you might need people to go on a technical support. So that's what you will say at a very broad high level here using. Then coming to process support. Process support is basically to run your organization, you need a ERP, you need a customer relationship management, you need a project management system, or probably you need a document management system, or probably you need a healthcare management system, right? For example, if you're running a hospital, let's say, so you need a healthcare management system which will talk to different equipments in the hospital. You need healthcare management system which can plan, schedule the patients, which can plan the practitioners, the doctors appointments. uh, it can help you to diagnose the disease. There can be analytical tools which can help you to diagnose. So these things form part of what you call the process support. Okay, then comes the most critical part, the what I call as the uh, blood of the startup or the small and medium enterprise, is the budget or the funding. For example, how much is the amount that you're going to spend in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year? So that at a broad level you will uh, uh, put it in the plan. And how will these fund be got? So will you have angel investors coming in, or will you have series A capital coming in, or probably you will realize the revenues, realize the funds through your own cash flows? So it can be from any of these three sources, or you might like to borrow from bank as a working capital. So those are the things which will come under the process support. Then coming to first 90-day plan. So any strategic plan cannot succeed unless until you have the 90-day execution plan broadly defined at a very top level, saying that this is the kind of manpower infrastructure we'll be putting in place in 90 days. And through these manpower, we will have traction of so many consumers or so many customers, and these are the kind of leads we are expecting. Out of these leads, in the first 90 days, we will close 10 leads or 20 leads or 30 leads, and we would have opened offices in probably two locations in the first 3 months, and we probably can expect one or two warehouses support, and what are the kind of challenges that you will be facing in the first 90 days. So that will be form the part of the first 90 days element of the thing. So basically first 90 days gives you a kickstart, gives you a boost, or gives you a path to show that what you need to do immediately. So that's what is defined in this first 90 days plan. Then coming to the milestone, success, and risk factors. So typically, any strategic plan needs to have milestone. Like I told you, right? In first 90 days, you will do it. But what after that? What will you do in 6 months' time? What will you do in 9 months' time? When will you? What targets will you cross in 12 months' time? What will be the second year's possible targets that you want to plan? So that will be the milestone that you will be entering. Success factor is, for example, appointment of CXOs, Chief Operating Officer. So that can be one of the succeeding factor. Or having a people on board within the particular duration, that can be another success factor. Or probably you can say one reference customer in each industry segment can be another success factor. Now, risk factor. What is the risk factor? Probably government can come with a modification of their policy. That can be a risk factor. Or one of your key resources might be out of action because of COVID. Okay. Or your key resource is taken away by the competitor. So that can be a risk factor. So those risk factors needs to be put in so that you are aware about those risk factors. And the reason why you need to plan the risk factor is you will know when that risk happens or when that risk takes place, you know what to do. The world was not prepared for the COVID. That's why if you see, most of the companies went for a berserk purchase of IT during the COVID time. And then after IT, they went on ramping up and hiring people. And today, most of these IT companies are in dire straits. Primarily, they went on a berserk hiring. If they had planned the risk properly, if they had planned the hiring properly, I'm sure they would not have reached this situation of where they had to throw out people within 2 months, 2 years of COVID coming and going, right? So that's why it's important to factor. See, a risk like COVID can never be factored at least before 2020. Now, going forward, I'm sure the next COVID or the next virus that's going to come, we all can be definitely prepared because we are game for it. We have gone through it and we know how to manage that. So the future risk factors need also to be captured here. And there are some risk factors probably you will not be able to do anything about it, but it's important that you're aware about those risk factors so you will know what kind of action plan that you need to take. For example, if there's going to be a total shutdown again, how many people will operate from work from home, how many key people will need to be at the site. So those needs to be planned so that when an emergency happens, when there is a sudden COVID lockdown in the city or the state, you must know what kind of uh, mitigation plan that you will do to overcome the uh, closure of the city or state, whatever happens at that time, right? Then coming to stretch ideas. However well you plan, however whatever strategies you adopt, there can always be scope for getting stretch ideas. And what do I mean by stretch ideas is outlandish ideas, some vague ideas which can be probably we can try out depending upon what kind of funds we have, depending on what kind of resources we have, depending on the time or bandwidth we have. For example, uh, let's say you're targeting consumers in class B, class C cities. Now, can we have a roadshow in those cities, or can we club with some welfare organizations? Maybe it's not part of your strategic plan. Maybe we can keep it aside so that if things don't go well, we can always try out these stretch ideas. Because what happens normally is when your main idea do not work, that is when your stretch idea can be put in place. Or when you want a very drastic result or you want a result that you're not expecting, that is when you need to look at stretch ideas. For example, uh, I still remember when Sony launched Walkman, which is today's iPod. At that time is called Walkman, the cassette player. They did a research and found out that the Walkman will not succeed in the marketplace. But they decided that they're going to stretch it beyond their imagination. Their gut feeling said that despite the research not working, they went ahead and launched Walkman. And at that time, Sony was Walkman, Walkman was Sony, till the time probably your iPod and the MP3 players came. It was mostly Chinese Walkman, and prior to Chinese Walkman, it was Sony Walkman, which where we all used to, in our childhood, we used to put cassettes in that and hear, right? So stretch idea is when you are cornered and you don't know what to do. You then come up with those outlandish ideas which you are not sure it will work. So typically, if you look at a strategic plan, you put in those ideas that you are definitely sure will work. And in stretch ideas, you put those ideas which you are not sure to work. You'll keep it as a backup, or probably you'll keep it as those ideas which you can cater to if you have the time, bandwidth, or the resources. Yeah. So that completes the. I've spent a lot of time on strategic plan because this is very critical for the company, and this is what the CEO needs to define. And the plan, the next two plan, that is the tactical and the operation, they are fully derived from this plan. And so over to the next slide. So coming to tactical plan. So what is exactly a tactical plan? Tactical plan is the broad actions that a company or the different departments will take. For example, as I told you, once you have a marketing department, then what are the different marketing activities that the company will be doing? One, two, three, four. So those we need to list down. And as a CEO or as a chief marketing officer, you need to monitor those activities that is happening in that particular department. Similarly, an operations department can have a list of 10 or 12 activities that they need to do for the year. Similarly, sales division. Similarly, your finance division. Similarly, your legal. Similarly, your quality. So over to the next slide. So you basically decide that, okay, department wise, division wise, these are the 7 or 8 activities that you will do, and they will take maybe 5 days, maybe it takes 3 months or 6 months duration by when you want to complete it. That is what is part of the tactical plan. So tactical plan is between the strategic plan and the operation plan. So as a CEO or as a CMO, you know what activities each of these department are going to do, and then you can have a dashboard saying that, okay, these are the 10 activities that these particular department have to do, and where are they standing in terms of those activities, right? So that is part of the tactical plan. So basically you will say that I need to complete lead generation activity of so much. I need to do business development activity in this particular territory. I need to target um, consumers in Jaipur and Ludhiana and Srinagar in this particular quarter. So those are the kind of tactical plans, tactical tactics which you'll put in as part of the tactical plan, right? Okay. Next, coming to the operation plan. So, as a CEO of a company, if you're running a startup and if you have very few resources, then it's better that the CEO himself does the operation plan. But what I've seen from my experience of managing large division and then being with startups for the last 8 years, it's not very easy to implement an operation plan and stick to it and follow it. But I would suggest, if you don't have the bandwidth, if you don't have the time to get into the nitty gritty details of operation plan, but at least your sales resource or your divisional head, he should be very clear as to what his operation plan. Obviously it is not possible for a CEO to get into the operation plan of each division, so that will be the game of the department head. So for a department head should know how many people in his sales team and what kind of activities they are going to do, and how many customers they are going to target in that period of time, and where we'll be looking at what kind of leads. So a detailed step by step plan. For example, let's say if you have to generate a small and medium enterprise software deal from let's say manufacturing belt of Pune. You have Pimpri and Chinchwad, that complete manufacturing belt, right? So if you have to generate the action plan will be, okay, we will target these manufacturing industries belonging to this category, one supplying spare parts to the let's say car industry, one supplying spare parts to the two wheeler industry, one supplying spare parts to the industry. These are the 10 or 12 factories that we are going to target. And in these factories, we're going to meet the factory head, and probably we'll meet the project manager, who will probably take a call on what kind of software they would need for manufacturing planning, or what kind of software they need for maintenance planning, or what kind of software they need for their production planning, right? So that level of detailed planning is what will go into a operation plan, right? So when I say operation plan, doesn't mean restricted to the operations department. It actually meant complete company operations across different departments. So that's what this means. And very difficult to implement this in most of the companies, but I would suggest that you should make it mandatory for the department. For example, let's say as a CEO of a startup, if you have different department heads, let's say you have chief marketing officer, you have chief sales officer, you have chief technology officer, it's important that you have a operation plan for each of the department, so that they know how to proceed as against the vision and mission. Now, when you marry the strategic plan and the operation plan and the tactical plan and this operation plan, you get your complete the entire company moving in line with your vision and mission. And believe me, it's not very easy to execute the operation plan exactly in line with what you're planning. But the companies who actually plan this is a company are those who get tremendous amount of success and uh, able to scale operations. So if a company is looking at scaling to the next level, or looking at scaling to that large to multiple towns, multiple cities, multiple industries, then having a clear cut operation plan is what will help them scale up. Otherwise, scaling becomes very difficult, because you will hire people, but they will not be able to fulfill exactly what you're planning. And without naming any company, this is what happened to many edtech companies, where they had a very good strategic plan, but somewhere they floundered on the operation plan, because their operation plan did not actually meet with the strategy of the company. And that is why we find a lot of cancellation happen in some edtech sector, right? So yes, so that completes my presentation on planning. So we can now move into the question answer session. uh, so basically what I would like to summarize here is, for a startup to thrive, to survive, to scale up, to grow in the startup ecosystem, they need to have a plan. And that plan consists of three different things: strategic plan, tactical plan, and operations plan. Strategic plan is at the CEO level, tactical plan is at the division head level, and obviously, operation plan is at the lower ground root level. And when you combine all these three, that is when your company's uh, results matches with the values, matches with the vision, values, objectives, goals of the company. Okay. So Ankit, over to you for the question answer.
Yes, sir. So I just want to have here more clarity on this. Like new startups have day-to-day challenges, right? So
Okay.
how they can cover it in an operational plan, because many time operational plan have some sort of decision how to tackle the major issues, but in startups they have new challenges in day to day. So how they can add in their operational plan to tackle the day to day challenges.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and this is what most departments don't do in large companies and mid-market segments. And I'm sure uh, it'll be good for the department heads to plan the risk. So if you see my slide on strategic plan, I'd said milestone factors, success factors, and risk factors. So once you capture the risk factor at the company level, then those risk factors you can actually break down into the tactical risks. That means department wise, what can be the risks? And then when you further go down into the from the tactical risk to the operational risk, you will be able to derive that. For example, let me give you a risk. For example, let's say COVID risk. Let's say the next COVID is going to hit India, and we are going to face fourth COVID, and let's say they're going to be locked down all over the country. So the that will be the so company's risk is okay, revenue risk and customer risk, right? Moment you give it to the activity risk, the let's take sales. So sales will not be able to go and meet the customers face to face. So the department will say sales mobility will be a risk. They will not be able to do face to face. So that will be the sales department. Now, once you get it down into the operational risk of a sales, so what is the risk for a sales guy? The risk for a sales guy is how can he go and meet a customer if he is not willing to meet? So, one, probably you need to convince the customer that you are sanitized and you get appropriate. For example, passes are issued for certain critical jobs. So maybe your most important sales guy is going to close a very $1 million deal, and the customer says, "I am coming to the company, and I would expect you to come." Then he needs to go and get government pass, and I'm sure in Gurgaon we used to. I mean, one of the startups used to apply. So go to a government pass, take the pass. So this is what I call the risk. So when you're planning this, so when you're planning the risk factor, you must know whether your critical sales guy can he go and meet the customer. The customer is willing to come, because obviously, if customer is into a mission critical business, he will definitely come to his factory or his head office. He can't be from home, right? He has to be there, right? So a sales guy has to go get a pass, government pass, and visit to the customer and try and close the deal. That is one thing. Second, can he convince the customer to go on a online call? So these are the things that you need to plan. Or, for example, let's take another department, IT department. Now, if there's going to be a lockdown, your servers need people who can be travel. And let's say there's a strict rule that even the IT people cannot travel at night. If, let's say, the police does not allow, so what will you do? Which means you need to have backup people on your server room, where one of them takes a turn after working 4 hours. He goes and takes rest. He has 4 hours sleep. Then the other server administrator comes, he takes over. So those are the kind of risk mitigation plan that you will plan at the operation level. I hope I've answered the question by giving you the sales example and the IT administration, because these are two very critical part of any factory or any office.
Yeah. Actually, I gone through with one article where I found the information. Out of the total registered startup, approx 37 percentage of startups belongs to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, right?
Okay.
And and you mentioned in strategic planning, SWOT analysis is very important tool in strategic planning, right? So, for a small town-based startup, what are the major points which need to consider in SWOT analysis?
See, I would not say that the strategic plan will be way far different from the strategic plan for a company based in city. For example, let's say the startup is into laundry outsourcing, and you have a laundry startup in hardcore city like Delhi, and then you have a laundry startup in a small city like Jabalpur. Now, the difference between Jabalpur and Delhi is the traffic, is the population, is the spread of the customer. Like, for example, you can have one person going into an apartment. For example, I stay in an apartment where, I mean, we have around 1,000 apartments here, and it's a very huge campus with parks and all that, right? Now, one startup can make enough business from these 1,000 apartments if they have a roadshow here and convince them. So they need to have a roadshow here. Whereas if you're having a laundry based startup in rural area, what are the kind of people you need to travel that kind of a location? What kind of infrastructure you need? What kind of, for example, will they travel by cycle? Will they travel by bike? Can they afford to travel by car? Obviously no, right? But then how do they transport these clothes? So probably do we use, so if it is a village, do we need to use bullock cart, or we need, so when it comes to um, class B, class C cities or the class D towns, you need to plan with respect to the topography of the city. So one is with respect to the map, that is how far the customers are spread. Then second is obviously what kind of expenses you need to cater to these customers. So these are the two main things that I can immediately target. Obviously, when you come to the rural area, the price sensitivity will differ. So the parameters will differ from um, product to product, company to company. But between a main city and a small by city, the difference will be the spread of the customer, the distance they travel, and the expenses. But overall, the headings will remain same. There's nothing new that will come for a class C or a class D city, which you need to plan extravagantly. But as I told, yeah, there might be some dynamics because of the spread that you need to account for. So uh, I would suggest that if you're able to take a city plan and then bring it down to a class B class city, you will not definitely miss out on anything as long as you know how your customers spread. So it's very important to know the spread of a customer. For example, if you think that you can run a Ola kind of service in let's say um, interior Rajasthan. It's not possible because interior Rajasthan is supposed to be a desert, right? So then, uh, instead of car, will you look at camels or will you look at horses? But horses may not be able to survive in the desert, right? So those kind of regional kind of strategic planning you might have to make. But it's very difficult for me to narrow down. It depends on the startup, depends on the what product they are giving and what kind of customer they are going to address. But broadly, uh, the customer spread, the price, the cost, that will vary, which means customer may not buy, the customer in city will buy at a particular value, the customer in village or a town may not buy at that value. So you might have to scale down the price slightly lower, maybe the features might have to be scaled down. So that is what will be the difference between the plan for a big city and a plan for a startup in a small city.
Right, sir. Another area where I want to have your opinion, like post pandemic scenario and work from home culture and hike in digitalization, how these all parameters are offering the opportunities from tier 3 and tier 2 cities to come up with their solution and have successful startups.
Okay. uh, while I might not be able to uh, touch upon every industry, because that will take a long time for me to summarize each industry and say what are the opportunities that are available. But at a broader level, I can say couple of, things. First is your healthcare industry. That's going to boom because, as Bill Gates keep predicting, that there can be more viruses to come in. There can be, imagine, um, we have seen COVID, which spreads through touch, spreads through close proximity. Imagine a virus which comes tomorrow, which spreads through air. Possible, right? I'm not discounting that. If there can be virus as deadly as COVID, I'm sure in future there can be a virus which can spread through air. Imagine a virus that spreads through air conditioning duct of all these offices, right? It's very, very deadly. So I see healthcare industry booming. So that is one. Second, thanks to the current government and thanks to China, that our country is forced to invest a lot of money into defense. So the defense sector is going to boom. And next comes your manufacturing sector. So the manufacturing sector catering to defense and other things also going to boom because make in India is going to go in at a very serious level, and our dependency on, be it Korea or China or US, have to get reduced. Otherwise, you will have problems of dependency on these countries. Like, for example, now people are going to have alternative to dollars in every pockets of the world. UAE and India is planning to have alternative to. So the third area is a manufacturing sector, and fourth comes obviously IT, because after the COVID, people have realized that technology is startup. Startup is technology. I am sure many may not, some of the non-tech people may not agree, and I am not a techie, but I feel today's startup is technology, technology is startup. If there is no technology, there cannot be a startup. Obviously, and as per Government of India startup norm, your startup 99% needs to have technology behind, unless until probably you're having some disruptive NGO or disruptive social impact organization where probably you don't need a technology at the beginning. But most startups, in my opinion, of last 8 years I've been in this industry, uh, every startup needs technology, right? So technology is going to take a leap, and in those technology, what are the places where you can have opportunity? IoT, that is Internet of Things. Now correlating that to a healthcare, your Internet of medical things, IOMT, can be a huge opportunity in healthcare, right? Then coming to another aspect of technology, your big data and analytics. Again, going back to industry, there can be analytics, there can be diagnostics, there can be prescriptive software, there can be preventive diagnostics. sorry, preventive analytics, there can be diagnostic analytics, there can be prescriptive analytics. Three types of analytics is possible in healthcare, and that comes from technology. So you can have analytics will go. And last but not the least, the most disruptive technology is the AI, artificial intelligence. uh, I see that impacting at a much larger scale in the next 4 or 5 years. And if you look at the Goldman and Sachs report, which came out recently, where they mentioned that 300 million job loss is going to happen in the next few years because of AI. So imagine your entire coding is going to is going to be taken over by AI. Ships are going to be manned by AI driven ships, which means you will have one large merchant navy ship with probably one or two engineers to fix the problem and one captain of the ship, probably. Or you might have completely remote controlled ship. And if there is a problem, somebody will fly in a helicopter and rectify the problem and then fly back. So imagine the navy, the entire people who are in merchant navy can lose their jobs. Legal profession can be easily automated by uh, chat gpt. Doctor profession, while at the very surgeon level, cannot be duplicated, but there is a theory right now which says robotics can do far less. I mean, they cannot do any error compared to a surgeon. So which means a patient error is highly reduced in a robotics kind of a surgery, right? So AI can come in that jobs. Teaching job can be taken over by AI. Then, yeah, so what remains is your engineer job. Again, your coder, your development, the low end coders can be their jobs can be taken away by the developer. The complete documentation, people who are into documentation, people who are into writing, their job can be taken away by AI. So I see AI as a tremendous opportunity for people in B, C, and D towns, especially these upcountry towns, because while people are busy running the large companies, enterprises, definitely there's a need for AI based research. So intelligent people, hardworking people who are able to understand AI and able to bring AI into the different processes or different products or different solutions, I see that as a tremendous opportunity. So these are some of the few predictions which are, obviously you go on to any technology side, you will come across this. And definitely this is what I would see as the value for startups evolving in places like Jabalpur or Jaipur or Jodhpur.
Right, sir? So let me quickly summarize the key points of today's session. So, so our overall motto of this session is to highlight the planning for a strategic plan, and then we have tactile plan and operational plan, which take care while we start our startup in a small town, right? So some of the key points sir has mentioned, like you must have the core attention on your strategic plan, because the everything is depend on your strategic plan. Sir highlights the role of SWOT analysis, importance of vision, mission, goal setting, and the objectives. These all are the core thing which drive your overall objective of your startup. Sir also mentioned the example of Sony Walkman. I also remember my time when I have the pretty good Walkman, and at the end, sir has shared the plan how to make operational plan which give the answer of 5W: who, why, what, when, and where. So that's a very crispy session today we had. And at the end, I just want to quote the message which you had in your WhatsApp status, like break the rules, change the game, and win at business. So thank you very much, sir. On behalf of Jabalpur Smart City and Jabalpur Incubation Center, we deeply grateful to you for your time. You accepted our invitation and presented this topic. Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much. It was a pleasure indeed from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.